I'm gonna show you how I created this official ad for Wan 3.0. I'm Kai, AI creator and director. The concept was to make an ads agency that's failing. They have no budget, the clients are really boring, and they are desperate for a salvation. And I wanted to play with this old aesthetic of a big, bulky machine, where one is just a massive button you just press, in contrast to how high-tech and sophisticated one actually is. I'm gonna show you how you can create a similar video with Wan 3.0 yourself. As usual, before any video generation takes place, we have to establish our characters, our setting, our locations, and all that using reference images. You'll see how these images are going to be used later on, but they are the base to everything together with the prompt. First of all, I created the characters I wanted. I make sure to create a character sheet for each person, because this way one will have different angles of their faces and their bodies, and that way keep consistency when we create our scenes, especially across multiple generations. Once I have my character established, I created one image with everyone inside the office to give one a context of how their office looks like, how the lighting looks like that, the colors I want of the video, and to show it the placement that one will have, because it's always going to be in the center of the room. Always make sure your character sheets are as realistic as possible with skin texture, hair definition, because the more real they look in the sheet, the more real they're gonna look in the video later. What made me most impressed about Wan 3.0 is the realism of the characters, the way they articulate when they speak, the way they look, and how they are being so good in bringing real human emotion according to my prompt. Since I knew the first scene will be about 15 seconds, I made most of it in one go. And you can see it's so good that this entire generation, I didn't even use the character sheet. They only picked the references from all the characters together in this image and my prompt. And this is the one I actually used, and there's no big secret here. I put the image of them all together in the office, close-up of the big one machine I made, and the character sheet of the characters I know will be speaking the most in this scene, together with the prompt. And it's just the handover of this document I changed. Since I made the PDF after the first scene, I had to reconstruct just that bit of the scene because I wanted them to handle over the real thing I created. So I designed as well how it's gonna look like when the paper enters the machine. So I included a screenshot of the PDF and an image of the characters holding it in the setting, and made a really short sequence just of them handing it over, and that bit matched perfectly with the rest of the scenes. So you can see I have the real PDF we created right there. And everything is reference images, because that will give the model guidance for how it's gonna look like once it happens. Most of this project I worked with the reference mode of Wan 3.0, which allows me to upload 6 different reference images, and the reference images are important so the model know how things are gonna look like once they happen. And that's why I can get the bottom consistent, and with reference images you can establish the lens you're gonna use as well. You can see here I'm using a very wide lens close up to give this effect of the hand getting really big when it's close to the lens. And you can see I start editing while I generate, because if something doesn't fit, if something needs to be longer or shorter, I can just fix that straight away. And for the first ad, I wanted to show how one can use a PDF brief from a client and create an ad out of that, because you upload it and it's gonna pull all the information, all the images, and create a video. So on this first version of the ad, I just uploaded the PDF that I created, obviously a fake PDF because this brand doesn't exist. I made a prompt of how I want the commercial to go, and it's already a pretty good result in my first try. And what's fun is that the first one gave me an idea of how I want the ad to be, and then I just changed a few things manually, created a few versions of basically the same thing, because as I said, I can pull a second from one, a second from the other, and create an even more perfect end result. For the second ad, what I did was to create this reference image of these teenagers in a festival. But how I did this, I took festival images to establish the setting and the style of clothing I want everyone to wear, and I generated those images with teenagers pulling the toilet over, and this image was basically enough for me to create most of the ad. What's really powerful with Wan 3.0 is that you can figure out the entire scene from one reference image as well. So only with this image, when I prompted that I also want close-up of their hands pulling, I want their faces, and I want close-up of their feet in the mud, it could do all of that. Give the model one reference image and prompt the angles and the close-ups you want from that same scene, and you're gonna get really good results without stressing the model too much with too many different reference images. And just look at the physics of the mud splashing when the toilet falls. It's really nice, it's really satisfying to watch. And as you can see here, not everything needs to be in one generation. Here I only liked this ending, so that's the bit I took to put in my final edit. Poor guy, I made him go through that so many times. How I created the effect of the bottom. I wanted the room to become the scene when they press the button, to really give that feeling of computer generated code everywhere. It worked so well, I'm so happy. So I want the transition to happen from this to this. So I took 2 screen grabs of the video, one from the moment she presses the button and one from the moment the toilet ad starts. And this time I used the first and last frame mode on 1, and I want this scene to start with when she presses the button, and it has to end with when the ad starts. And a prompt explaining that once she presses the button, everything's gonna turn into 1.0 code in purple because that's the color of 1, and it's gonna shift from one form to another. I didn't expect it to be this freaking good though. Once you have your generation ready, you pull it into your timeline. You can see it's quite long. I made a 4-second generation because if I only made this transition 2 seconds, it wouldn't have been this detailed and smooth. And then what you do, you find the exact moment she presses the button, you're gonna speed it up, so it plays way faster than it actually is. It ends where this ad starts. You just find the position where it matches the hands, so maybe around here. Yeah, and you can see this will play out really good. And the other times they press the button, I created the same way. You just needed to give it a few goes. Like any other AI video model, usually no generation will ever be 100% perfect with everything you need, but most generations will always have something you can use. If you create multiple versions of the same prompt, you can pick the few seconds of each one that actually works, and you can put them together in your editing software later. So overall, Wan 3.0 really impressed me with the understanding of the prompts, the realism of the human characters, and the fact that you can just feed in a website or a PDF and you get actual video content out of it. It was the first time I've seen this happening. So thank you so much for watching. If you had any questions, drop them in the comment section. It would be very nice if you left a like and a comment to help me out. If you want to access Wan 3.0, comment 1 and I'll send you the link.